we all stand on the shoulders of those who came before us.
A Black future happens all the time. It's built on a foundation of those who have paved the way. A generation ago, all of this would have seemed unheard of. And what's new to the world now will be incomparable to what's coming up next. Trust your dream. The future is counting on it.
Yeah, baby, you know what time it is. Now let's get it started. Are you kidding me? Unreal!
While our HBCUs are mostly known for academic rigor, community, they also know how to turn up.
Does he have it? Yes, he does! And that might be the knockout punch.
Greetings and salutations. And that's what happens when your speakers cut out on you. But greetings and salutations, y'all. Another episode of Fangs Up here. And it's been a pretty cool day or two if you are a FAMU fan and listening to the happenings and the things that are going about on the highest of Seven Hills. So me in particular, I know that I'm super excited, and I'm going to do something I probably shouldn't do and do it without listening to myself because the earpiece wants to act funny. But that being stated, FAMU is about to really begin the fall sports. Fall sports have technically already begun, but that being stated, we're going to begin the most revenue producing sport, which is obviously football, on Saturday when we play the University of North Carolina. But in the meantime, we got a doubleheader for FAMU volleyball that's going to be coming up as well. We're also going to talk about the University of North Carolina matchup. If you caught yesterday, appreciate the guys from Penalty Talk. Had a lot of fun. And then also appreciate the shout out from Brian on ONG Strike Zone, because we were on the sideline, and we're going to talk about that Moussa thing. Like, I'm going to talk about it at least, and then give you some games to watch, and also kind of mention a little bit about the AD search. But I mean, I can only say so much because it's not that I'm at liberty to say, but I haven't been able to watch all of the streams that they had on Zoom. But FAMU has a doubleheader tomorrow, and that's going to be part of that tournament that they have in Kansas. Not going to go into too much crazy detail about it, but it's a great opportunity for FAMU to play high-quality talent, which that's something that you and I as a fan base are not only deserving of, but we want to see and you want to hear. And you want to be able to see that we can hold our own against that tournament. We're playing 3 high-quality teams, one of which is Kansas State, and then the other teams are going to be North Carolina State University and Sam Houston State. And if you remember correctly, one of our student athletes, she came out of retirement and she previously played at NC State, and now she's going to be playing against them. So that's going to be a fun little kind of side story. Hopefully everything kind of works out to where there's a bit of camaraderie between her and her former teammates who are now competitors, but also hoping that we're able to put out a good product. And to me, that's one of the big things with volleyball. We want to prepare ourselves. Iron sharpens iron is kind of the thing you'll hear in a lot of circles, especially if you're like me, somewhat religious. Iron sharpens iron so you can get better. That's kind of the idea, in my opinion, that we sharpen ourselves against these really good teams and prepare ourselves for conference play. And if we're able to do that and prepare for conference play, I think what you're going to get is a high quality of athletic competition that is then ready to do favorably well or really well in the conference. And considering we are the SWAC champions, I'm petty. I'm sorry. I'm not going to stop saying it until probably we're not the SWAC champions anymore, which hopefully that's not for a whole decade or so, because I enjoy being SWAC champions. I enjoy being able to have that little bit of petty. It's a lot of fun to be able to have. And that being stated, though, we have a really good team. We brought in some good transfer athletes, and this team has positioned itself very well to make a decent run in the SWAC tournament. And that is something that I personally think that we're going to continue to see. We're seeing good content be put out too as well. Shout out to the crew over there on campus, because we're seeing where we're getting videos we've seen where the student athletes are talking with each other and building camaraderie amongst themselves. And to me, that as a fan, it looks nice, but also that's a recruiting pitch. And as an alumni, it hopefully encourages us to continue to support those programs, because we do need to support the volleyball program. They're winning SWAC champions, and we traditionally teach and enforce that when you do well, you're rewarded. And the reward for doing well should be additional support. We saw where for the first game, they had an ice cream social. Student athletes were supported by the student base, and the president gave the students ice cream and things like that. And you were able to see the pictures and the audio of the students being in there. And hopefully it helps make the Lawson Center a little more imposing as far as a space. I, like many others, I anticipate the volleyball program moving back to Gaither. Gaither's a more intimate setting. If you haven't seen the videos from the pep rallies, Gaither's like that. It's a different ambiance and a different atmosphere than the Lawson Center. The Lawson Center is much larger, about 10,000 seats, not a little less than that, about 9. Whereas Gaither, you're probably talking about a couple hundred, maybe 1,000, 1,500, but it's a much smaller setting. But it does bode itself very well for athletic competition and sports that are similar to volleyball and things like that. We also saw where today they had a women's basketball interest meeting, and hopefully we were able to get a few student athletes come out there. And y'all know I kind of look to the left and try to see if I can get a little video going up there from the Gaither video. But if you haven't seen it, I'm just going to give you the tea. Go check out Coach Rispus. He actually got a really good video, and a couple publications have reused his video, but he just kind of got the vibe. And ONG actually put out there, like, this is what a game in Gaither used to be like. Like, Gaither would be a great venue, similar to what Florida State did with Tully Gymnasium. Tiny Tully, as it has been called by especially the older generation, but turning and repurposing a smaller venue that's more intimate for a sport that's going to draw a smaller audience. I think that's a great idea. It would almost be good to have something like that for women's basketball as well, just to be able to create a smaller, more intimate venue for them that allows for them to have a better audience atmosphere and maybe render better participation for those games. I don't know how far down the pipe that would be, but it's just a thought. So again, those are the two sports that we kind of have that are kind of doing a little something now. The bell cow, as we know, is football. And in order to win football games, it's not always about the X's and O's. It's about the Jimmies and the Joes. And I just mentioned the best recruiting coach out there right now, in my personal opinion, Coach Too Bless on Twitter. And he is already letting y'all know he's ready. The dead period is about to end. And within the recruiting dead period, we're not supposed to make contact with the student athletes and the potential recruits from certain class areas. But Coach has put it out there, like, y'all got one more week. And he's already kind of put out there, hey, start dropping your videos, show your highlight tapes, let me know how you did in this game here. And that is a great thing because it creates a buzz. It gives people who are the content creators something to share. It gives the fan base something to look forward to. And we're able to see that we already got 3 dudes who caught some nice fresh offers from Florida A&M University. One is Jamie French. He's a 6'1", 175-pound. They say he's an athlete, but he's listed as a receiver in most places, from Jacksonville, Florida, Mandarin High School. He's a 2025 4-star prospect. So I know how I feel about that. When I see 4 stars, I'm hopeful, but I'm not going to be one of those people that's going to tell you we're going to get this kid because he's a 4-star prospect. There's a chance, but the chance is more likely he'll go elsewhere. But if he does come to FAMU, y'all already know the FAMU league, we're going to welcome him. We're going to take him in as well. And you want to continue to get that attention from those athletes, because even if they don't come here, they kind of are sharing with their friends and their peers the experience of going to FAMU, going to homecoming. And that is something that's going to help recruiting. If you continue to draw good talent in, you're eventually going to win some games. And another student athlete we're bringing in and as an offer was Hardley Gilmore, 6'1", 175, wide receiver from Pahokee. It's Pahokee, not Pahokee. Down from Belglade and the Muck, and y'all know those athletes are different. Those kids are built different. It's a different kind of speed. That is South Florida speed, but different. Those kids are built different down there. He's a 2025 prospect, and his film looks like he's pretty quick. Normally I try to get a little film, but the computer was running slow, so I didn't want to be glitching out and other things. But a 6'1", 165 athlete from Pahokee down in Belglade, man, you would love to be able to get that kind of talent. And traditionally, those are guys that you want as kick returners, receivers, corners, safeties. I mean, really anywhere on the field that you can put the ball in one of their hands, that's a spot, and that's a spot or a person that's dangerous. Just looking out to see what he develops into is going to be fun. And another guy, last guy I got on here that we slid an offer to was Daniel Harris, 6'5", 180-pound edge rusher / defensive end from Melbourne, Florida. And most times when you say Melbourne, it's either Palm Bay or Rockledge. And this guy is from Palm Bay, 3-star 2023 guy. And he's going to me, fit this Isaiah Land mold. Isaiah Land, if you didn't remember, kind of comes into FAMU, undersized, about that same size, 180 pounds, fills out to become a 215, actually, I believe. Last time I saw 215, 220-pound edge rusher. Hopefully we can get him up to 230, but similar mold, similar build, guy that's kind of tall, lean, and 3-star prospect. He's a senior this year, so FAMU's hot on the recruiting trail, definitely making our mark and continuing to pursue students in Florida, Georgia, and the DMV. So all three of these guys are from Florida, but again, FAMU was very active in those other areas as far as getting recruits and actually signing them as well. So we're going to take a quick break. Then we're going to talk about this North Carolina game, and I'm going to break it down. Like, what are some of the potential problems? What are some of the potential strengths of the game? I'm going to also mention the betting odds and our starting quarterback for the game. Like yesterday, we got a starting quarterback, and this is Fangs Up.
We all stand on the shoulders of those who came before us.
A black future happens all the time. It's built on a foundation of those who have paved the way. A generation ago, all of this would have seemed unheard of. And what's new to the world now will be incomparable to what's coming up next. Trust your dream. The future is counting on it.
All right, we're back, and week 0 is here, and FAMU's going to play the University of North Carolina. This is our first ever meeting between Florida A&M University and the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. If you're not familiar, UNC has several campuses, but UNC that we all think of is UNC Chapel Hill, and that is the blue and white, Cam the Ram, Tar Heels, all that good stuff. The school Michael Jordan went to, and their head coach is Mack Brown. If you're not familiar, though, Mack Brown went to Florida State, so he is very likely familiar with hearing the Marching 100. He actually encourages players, like showing them some information and saying, hey, kind of check this out. The 100 is pretty good, and the 100 will be in attendance. And supposedly there's going to be a joint halftime show between the University of North Carolina and the Marching 100. Both bands are going to be on the field together. This is not UNC's first time doing that, though. They did that with North Carolina A&T when they played each other, and they're kind of hyping this game up to be an HBCU special for them. You're going to have some honorary captains for the game that are representing both Florida A&M University as well as the state of North Carolina. So I believe Rod Broadway and Rudy Hubbard and one more individual also going to be there. So how do you watch this game? It's going to be on the ACC network, and I myself am going to watch it. And it's good. It's a game. It's a game. We kind of know what it's going to be. It does flash some potential problems for FAMU. The first is North Carolina's pace of play. North Carolina plays very quickly. They play a high-tempo offense, and when you run a high-tempo offense, the question is, can the defense get the plays in fast enough, and can they get set? Because a lot of times what happens if the defense doesn't get the signs in time, or if they don't recognize them in time, then they don't get properly aligned. All of a sudden, the offense is able to capitalize. And that always looks bad, especially when it's a run play. Like when it's a passing breakdown, it seems that you don't notice it quite as much. Sometimes the safety is able to make a play. But when it's a run breakdown and the defensive players are still looking at the defensive coordinator and all of a sudden the running back's gone, it looks chaotic, unorganized, and it's always something that's very frustrating. And that was one of the things I was mentioning in the coach meeting that Coach Simmons had was, would we be able to get where we need to be in time? And I myself thought about the same thing. And also UNC's receivers led by Josh Downs, but I'm also mentioning the hometown kid from Tallahassee, Kamari Morales. Look out for him. He is a graduate of Lincoln High School, the new Lincoln for those old heads, not the old one. But he's pretty solid target. And if you look last year, UNC's quarterback would look for him and find him in times of need. He's been a great security blanket. And I wonder if that's going to be something similar because UNC has really good depth, but the depth chart wasn't really released until Monday. So much like FAMU and us deciding who our quarterback was yesterday, UNC just announced their quarterback on Monday. And they're going with the redshirt freshman quarterback. And not gonna lie, he's supposed to be all world, but I think that's a potential strength for FAMU because you're bringing a guy into a college atmosphere, and Chapel Hill is not known as being the most imposing stadium in the ACC, but it's a large crowd. It is. We're still talking 60,000 plus, if memory serves me correct. And the quarterback's name is Drake May. Drake May is a quarterback that UNC was able to get and take away from the University of Alabama. He previously was supposedly committed to them. And looking at his film, he's very mobile. The old film that he had, he was rough, but supposedly he's worked on his game, he's worked on his footwork, and those were the big things that were the takeaways when listening to the UNC pundits talk about him. They were saying his footwork and his delivery were things that he really worked on, and it wasn't so much of throwing catchable balls, it was making sure the balls got out really on time, and again, making sure his footwork was sound. And to me, when I hear footwork, I started thinking about accuracy. And when I looked at his previous film, he wasn't always accurate and the balls weren't pretty. They were the little knuckling balls. And if you ever played receiver, a pretty ball, it comes in on a spiral. But when a ball comes in on a spiral, it comes in on a line. So it's really like the football comes in on a straight line to you. You can see the nipple of the ball. You can watch it come into your hands. Your hands are already set up in a certain way. And when you catch the ball, you're able to just bring it into your body. I mean, not catch it with your body, but catch it with your hands and bring it into your body so that you can secure it. The balls that I saw that May had were knuckling to a certain degree. And one that slows down how quickly the ball gets to the receiver, meaning that gives the corner extra time to get to the ball, but it also makes the ball harder to catch because it's harder to gauge it, harder to find it. One thing that UNC had in their quarterback last year, he threw a good ball. I mean, he was a gunslinger and he made mistakes, but he threw a beautiful football, very catchable. And you saw where the receivers were able to capitalize on that. And I'm thinking the youth of this quarterback and this being his first real game, because he does have a quick release. Like it's kind of coming from the side of his head. And it's a nice little slick release now. But can he get comfortable? Because supposedly he can make all the throws. He spreads the ball across the field. And like I said, he's been working on his footwork and the delivery. But with this huge upside and the lack of experience, can FAMU's defensive line generate defensive line? Y'all already see I'm going to the land. Defensive line generate pressure because you have Isaiah Land, you have Gentle Hunt, you have all these defensive linemen that FAMU has been able to stack up that are Division I quality. I mean, people oftentimes talk about the haul that Jackson State brought in and the haul that Alabama A&M brought in. FAMU brought in a good recruiting class. They brought in good transfers, and they maintained a lot of their glue guys. We lost some of our stars. We did. We lost two big stars, Savion Williams. Y'all know that's my favorite. That was my favorite defensive player last year. Now, my boy Bell was my dude though. Like I ain't gonna lie. Like I like Bell. Like Bell's really nice, respectable young man, great guy. But Savion just had that little bit of edge. Like he had that little bit of what for to him. Like, yeah, he might get in trouble every once in a while and get a penalty. You'd be like, oh, come on. Y'all can't throw him out the game for rocking the baby. That was, ugh. Anyways, Grambling, we beat them. But that was my favorite guy. Like last year, like that was definitely favorite guy on the team. But we lost those two. This year, can we get that pressure on them? Because if Isaiah Land can generate pressure, because UNC Chapel Hill has some good tackles. You're playing ACC quality tackles. Can he put good film out there? And if he can wreak havoc to where he's constantly forcing the quarterback to step up in the pocket, but then General Hunt and the defensive linemen are able to get enough penetration to where they can make those interior linemen kind of push them backwards, is really what I'm trying to say. Then all of a sudden you're creating an offensive line situation where, yes, there may be a pocket there, but the pocket starts to shrink. And if we can get some fortunate bounces go our way, things can go pretty well, because FAMU's defense is opportunistic. If you look last year, the defense is not just this crazy, like, blitz all over the place defense. It's very disciplined as far as like they know where they're supposed to be. We blitz from the corners, we blitz from the safeties. We'll send a linebacker here or there, but I didn't see a lot of defensive end spies. But it was very like we knew our base defense, we knew how to run it, and when the time was right, we would send a safety, we would send a corner. BJ Bowler had a sack last year. Marquise Bell had sacks, and FAMU's got more speed than we had last year, in my opinion, especially in the secondary. So a secondary that was already opportunistic, that brings in very good transfers. One being a transfer that we got from Texas, Texas A&M previously, but he transferred community college out of Texas, Houston. Anyways, FAMU secondary is very good. Like the linebacker room is the one room we don't really talk a lot about, and we even had improvements there. So you're just seeing that. How will these transfers and these additional bodies that came in have an impact on the game? Because I don't think we win the game just because the number of bodies. I mean, you got 85 scholarships going against 60 some scholarships. I think 65. So eventually attrition is going to wear on us, but we can make this game interesting. And part of what makes this game even more interesting is Coach Simmons' decision at quarterback. Moussa, and y'all, if you remember from day one, I was at the spring game, and shout out to Brian ONG Strike Zone. He was like, yeah, I was standing. We were talking about that. We were like, yo, he's not coaching that dude. Like, he's coaching everybody else. He's talking to him. Moussa just does his thing. And then, like, even after the game, Moussa's kind of off doing his thing. He just looked like that dude as a quarterback. I thought McKay has the heart of the team. I still do. I think McKay is the heart and soul of that FAMU football team, because they actually they love on him. They and he loves them on the back. Like, he's very positive. He's encouraging. Really nice guy. But Moussa just had that extra it factor. Now with me, for McKay, I know what I'm going to get. He's consistent. He doesn't have a lot of turnovers. I've said it a couple times, and sometimes tongue in cheek, where I'm being sarcastic, but he had 5 turnovers last year, and half the mugs was against Valley almost. I think 2 picks against Valley. And I think between Valley and Alabama A&M, them pretty much all his picks. Like, other than that, McKay was very solid. But supposedly there were some injuries and other things that affected the decision. Moussa was taking a lot of snaps. And if you looked at the videos that the university produced, Moussa's in most of those videos. Like, I'm not trying to say anything, but I mean, I'm looking, and I was like, okay, Moussa's in most of these videos. Like, when you're looking at him getting extra time, getting extra work, whether it's with the tight end, Kobe Gross, I believe, the receiving core, K-Dot, and those guys, most of the videos were with Moussa. That's not saying that McKay wasn't there, because McKay was there. He was obviously getting some time, getting some reps, but we saw a lot of Moussa in the videos and whatnot in the publications. And for me, when I looked on the field, I felt Moussa was the more polished quarterback. And for anyone y'all heard me say it, I felt like Moussa was the better quarterback, but it was because he was more experienced. You could see just when you watch him, he's been getting quarterback training for much longer. And that's something that we've said about McKay since the word go, that he hasn't had as much time. He hasn't been able to get as much experience. And that's not a slight on him. It's just, it is what it is. Like, my dad builds cabinets. My dad is he does great at building cabinets. You ask me to build some cabinets tomorrow, it's not going to be as good. I'm not as experienced. Now, even if I went to school and did some training and did all these things, I'd probably be really good at it, but my father would have the experience over me. He would have, I ain't gonna say his age, but he would have experience over me. And this is the same concept that you have with Moussa and McKay. You have a just much more experienced guy, got him more training. And because of that, you have a quarterback that's a little more confident. Now, Moussa's going to make more mistakes. Like, I'm not, he did throw that pick 6 in the spring game. So maybe that's something that you can kind of look at and say, hey, take your time, man. Because I trust Moussa. I trust Coach Simmons. I trust his decision. I trust McKay too, though. Like, both of them. And even in coaches explaining of our quarterback depth chart, he pretty much said it was Moussa, McKay, and then Junior was there in the back. And I said the same thing. I was like, I think Junior's really here for next year. And I think it's going to be a Junior versus Fisher thing. Maritovic, Fisher next year. Who's going to be the quarterback? And I think Junior has the edge at that, but you better watch out, because I think Fisher's ability to grasp the playbook is going to be something that is going to play a factor there. But I digress. Having Moussa there is going to open the field a little more. I think it's going to give you a little more margin for error as far as passes. You'll notice sometimes in the Classic, some of McKay's throws were a little inaccurate. There we go. I was looking for a different word, but I'm going to use inaccurate so I'm not overly verbose. But whereas to me, Moussa throws a better ball. He's a little more accurate, but he's a little more of a gambler. And I jokingly, tongue-in-cheek, use the idea, or the Brett Favre versus Brad Johnson idea, whereas, I mean, he ain't no Brett Favre, but it's the gunslinger mentality versus the take care of the ball, be a good steward of the ball, make sure that we don't make mistakes. I'd rather maybe hold the ball a little bit longer than make this mistake. Whereas we also are going to see that Moussa's a more willing runner. Not that McKay can't run, though. Like, I think to say that Rashawn McKay can't run is a misnomer. That's almost making him seem like he's not athletic. No, he's just he's trying to be a quarterback. Like, he's not trying to be a runner. So in this game, we get Moussa starting. Moussa has the better arm talent. He's got the better footwork. He's got the better elements, or the better foundational quarterback tools. There we go. The better foundational tools as a quarterback when you compare the two. But McKay was not bad. Like, he wasn't a slouch. Again, the good number of touchdowns compared to interception ratio, and statistically, he held up in the SWAC. Now, is he Andrew Body? No. But at the same point, we got a good starter. I think they both play. Honestly, I think McKay will get some snaps, and I believe I said that before, where I honestly, in the space a few days ago with BJ Jones, I stated that, well, I think McKay was going to start, because I thought Coach Simmons was going to go with the guy I know over the guy I don't know. And not saying he didn't know Moussa, but saying that I know what I've seen out of Moussa, and I know what I've seen out of McKay, but I've seen a lot more out of McKay because I've had McKay for years. Like, let's not lie about this. McKay was there for the Stanley years. Like, he was there when Ryan Stanley was there. And McKay was the one that beat the Wildcats. He was the one who broke this 10-year streak against Bethune-Cookman University. And so it's going to be interesting. And having met Rashawn McKay a few times, respectful guy, and I think he handles it well. And this isn't his first time. Remember, last year, he did get benched for that game after the game in Miami. But I think this is going to be a good example and opportunity for McKay to heal up, but also for Moussa to show his chops. Because if Moussa has a really good game against UNC, I'm not going to say the guy gets drafted. I'm not going to go and be that hyperbolic, but I am going to say it could help him go further and do some better things post FAMU, because he's kind of one and done here. Now, what are the betting odds? It's 39 points. The spread is 39 points when I checked yesterday. And honestly, I'm taking FAMU. I'm not a gambler. I don't be putting money down like that. Not like that. Like I don't even gamble with my wife because she always wins. Like I bet if I sat up there and said I bet such and such would happen during this game, and my wife say $5, my $5 would be lost. I need to better that. Never mind. I'll say that for after the game. But I think FAMU can actually. I wouldn't bet on FAMU getting beat by 50 points. I don't think that UNC's offense is going to be that prolific early on. I think later on they may figure it out, but I honestly would not be surprised if the young man makes a few mistakes because it's not like FAMU secondary is trash. The defensive line is solid. The linebacking core is different. And our corners and our safeties are tall. Like, look at the depth chart of FAMU safeties. You got a couple 6'1", 6'2", 6'3" guys. Like, they're not short. They're not my height. They're not a bunch of 5'9", 5'8" guys playing safety. I think that bodes in our favor. I believe the fact that BJ Bowler is going to be out there bodes in our favor as well. And I would love to see him at the nickel, honestly. I'm not sure who you're going to put on downs, but I just like the idea of having him play that almost rover role. Like the corner that can kind of free range a little bit where, oh, okay, I don't have to cover anybody. I'm blitzing. Oh, I can do this. I need to spy because FAMU's going to need to spy that UNC quarterback. That guy can move. And when you looked at his spring game, he was a guy that he ran the ball a lot in that spring game. He ran the ball first quite often where he went through his reads, went through his progressions. And once that happened, it wasn't there. He got rid of the ball. So I don't know. I don't know how that goes, but I'm going to pick. I already picked UNC to win this game, but I think it's closer than the experts think. Don't count the Rattlers out completely. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to talk about a couple games to watch, and we're going to talk about why we need an AD real quick. Or actually, we're supposed to get an AD next week.
A black future happens all the time. It's built on a foundation of those who have paved the way. Trust your dream. The future is counting on it.
All right, y'all. So games to watch this week. Obviously, the FAMU UNC game is the game for FAMUans to watch. But we also got the MEAC SWAC Challenge. And I got Howard in this one. The game's going to be on ESPN. But again, just like when I did the Alabama State preview, and I was like, we don't know what we're going to get. We don't know what we're going to get. Like, this is their head coach is doing something similar to Dion, but different. I mean, a lot of times we talk about how Coach Prime never had college experience, but it's not that he never had coaching experience. He was at Prime Prep. He did coach at high school. Prime Prep wasn't what it was, which I think is kind of why some of the bigger schools are kind of like, But that being stated, like Dion was actually a pretty decent high school coach, especially if you remember, he came down to the Tallahassee area and they put a little something on Gaston County High School. Like there was a nice little mollywhopping. So, but Alabama State's coach, we don't know. I don't know anything really. What is the offense going to look like? I think the defense is going to be solid. So I'm going to go with Howard in that one, just because we got a little something, just a little more history with them and a little more knowledge about that. Now, if you haven't been keeping up, especially if you haven't been able to watch, FAMU has been waiting for an athletic director. The due date for the athletic director is the Orange Blossom Classic, which I feel some type of way about that. I'm just saying that could just be the fact that I'm a state employee myself, but I do know that I would have loved to have an AD by July 1st so that he could have started the fiscal year off just controlling everything, doing his thing. But it sounds like the candidates are really solid. I was able to listen in and see that we have some pretty solid people, and they're from different minority groups. They're also from different genders. And I believe that's a great thing. I'm not one of these people that feels like we just got to have a man to head it up. I also don't feel like we necessarily have to have a person that is melanated. I want the best candidate, and I think FAMU deserves that. FAMU deserves to have the best candidate out there as an athletic director. And the big things that we need as an athletic director, we need somebody that's going to be able to raise money, somebody that's also going to be able to improve the APR in those sports that APRs are declining in, and we need somebody that's going to be a good steward of our facilities. We need someone that's going to be able to be a good facilities manager. Brad cannot fall into disrepair like that, especially considering football is your bell cow. Also, the Lawson Center, you got to improve that. Eventually, the softball complex and the baseball complex, they need some more upgrades, and the tennis courts as well. So those are the three things I'm looking at. Now, as far as today is Thursday, so you may have saw on the FQ Family Twitter page, I'm excited about these Friday night lights. I am. In talking to my mom, I found I got some family here in Central Florida, and one of them plays at Apopka High School. I have yet to go to a game there, so tomorrow, weather permitting, it is trying to thunder and lightning here. Now, I will be at the Apopka versus Ocoee High School football game. If you see me out there, throw a wave up. I'm just going to be there as a fan. I might take a few pictures, but I'm not going to be there on any type of FQ FAMU or Fangs Up podcast priority or mission. I'm just there as a fan. I will take pictures though and kind of be like, hey, this is fun and whatnot, so I can get the Apopka experience, because this is a huge game, kind of a nice little rivalry, because you have these two cities that really butt up against each other. And as y'all know, we're going to be going to a couple different games this year. Hopefully catch that Lincoln Dillard game and a couple other ones as well. So y'all know FQ FAMU, we do our thing as far as trying to follow some high school sports, as well as with HBCU Digital and the Fangs Up podcast. We go to high school events, we cover college events. Now I primarily focus on FAMU, but we cover it all. So as always, y'all, I do duly appreciate your time. I'm right at 40 minutes, so I don't want to talk too long. I appreciate y'all. But as always, y'all, it is Fangs Up. Thank y'all for listening. And thank you to HBCU Digital for being a promoter and a partner. And it's always going to be Fangs Up.
We all stand on the shoulders of those who came before us.
A black future happens all the time. It's built on a foundation of those who have paved the way. A generation ago, all of this would have seemed unheard of. And what's new to the world now will be incomparable to what's coming up next. Trust your dream. The future is counting on it.
Yeah, baby, you know what time it is. Now let's get it started. Are you kidding me? Unreal!
While our HBCUs are mostly known for academic rigor, community, they also know how to turn up.
Does he have it?